Hello and welcome to another episode of the W12 podcast. We are on episode 6 of the season. Thanks for listening. I'm Ben Platt. A bit of a bumper episode today. We've got all the big guns on today. We've got Ollie back from up the R's. How are you, Ollie?
Good, mate. You?
You've been under the weather this week, I hear.
Yes, makes a change for it being Brad, doesn't it?
It does.
Nice and fresh.
You feeling good, though?
Yeah, fantastic.
Good. Duncan McCready, how are you, mate?
Yeah, all good. Having a good day. I'm looking forward to tonight, so should be a really good episode.
Post-world, okay.
Well, I've had a good day because I've been on strike today, so.
Have you? I'm so happy about that as well. All the people that haven't got their post.
Oh, everywhere, I know. I'll have a busy day tomorrow to make up for it, but I need a pay rise. As simple as that.
Jack Supple, back on. How are you? 2 weeks in a row?
Yeah, very well. Yeah, cheers for having us back on. And fantastic week we got to talk about.
Good. And we're also joined by Leon Balogun, QPR's centre half. How are you, Leon? You good?
I'm good, thank you. And yourself?
Very good. I can see you bought yourself a new TV there.
It's not new, actually. It's just the one I brought down with me from Glasgow. I've just seen it myself, had to laugh a little bit.
It looks pretty big. You good, though? How are you?
Say again?
How are you? You good?
I'm good, yeah. Thank you. Settling
good.
well.
What's your day been? You been training today? You've been with the lads today at all?
Yes, we trained in the morning, just normal time. And then just normal things. Went to get a haircut. Still trying to figure out bits and bats, around living here, sorting the apartment out pretty much. That's why the TV is still there. It's need somebody to hang it up for me, but I'm still waiting for like a TV, what you call them, like a brisket or something. So,
like a bracket, yeah.
Yeah, or bracket, exactly. Brisket. I don't know how I came up with that one. When it comes to that, I'm German, okay?
You weren't involved in the last game. Is everything all right? Are you just rested? Was carrying a niggle, or is it?
No, that was all good. I mean, obviously, I joined the team quite late, and because of my own situation, I actually didn't have a preseason. And I think it was not the plan for me to come into those very, very busy weeks. But I had to step up because we were just a bit short on that position. And obviously, without having a preseason, played 2 weeks with like 2 games within 3 days or 4 days, which is always very, very demanding. And I think the plan was for me never to play all 3 games that week. And I think the manager just thought that's a good moment to give me a bit of a rest, thinking in the long term. That's why it's all good. I've been training all week now. I obviously did feel a bit of soreness here and there in those games you might have seen, but it's just, I'm not going to be, I don't want to be disrespectful, but it is kind of going through a bit of a preseason, not anymore, but definitely the first 3-4 weeks have been. But yeah, I'm ready to go again.
I'm not surprised if you're feeling a few little niggles where you've been throwing yourself into challenges and blocks.
It's not even from that, to be honest. That you just get used to over I don't know how many years now, but it's more like a bit of soreness and stuff. But yeah, I mean, you have to live through it sometimes and work through it. And I'm actually quite happy that I went through without any injuries, any major issues, like just nothing that a good old Rob could not solve, So.
What's your early assessment of QPR life at the moment? What is it? 5 games? What's your own assessment?
I think we have a very, very good, very young but very talented team. I think we have an incredible manager who is still trying to get his ID into the players, into the club, his philosophy. I think you can see the first signs of it being successful, but it's early in the season, so there's still loads of work to do. But so far it's been very, very positive. It's not a moment, I think, to be extremely excited. It's like, I mean, you want to look back at the last few games and say, well, that's been quite successful, but there's no time to really pat yourself on the back for that, because as I just said, the season is going to be very, very long, and we have to replicate that over and over and over again if we want to be really successful. But I think it's a bit of a mentality that Mick tries to bring into the team, and a bit of, or more of a belief actually in yourself as a group, in yourself individually. And so far, I think that's been going very well.
When you obviously you signed quite late on in the window, and obviously there were lots of rumours that you know, like there are quite early on in the window. Was there a reason it was so late? Was it always the plan to join QPR, or were there other offers, or how did the summer sort of pan out?
I think it was pretty much a matter of, can we agree on a deal? Actually, that is just good for both sides. So we had contact early on when the news first broke that I'm not going to stay at Rangers. And then we went through a bit of a quiet spell. Always have been in touch. Do you hear that actually in the background with me? Like my emails coming through. I need to see how I can turn that off actually, but I have no clue how that works.
As long as it's not your agent.
No. That's all good. He's packing. Let me just. No, I wouldn't even know how to turn the notifications off here. Well, we have to go through it somehow. Sorry. So yeah, as I said, we've been in touch early on in the transfer window. Then was a bit quiet. We've always stayed in touch, sometimes more, sometimes less. There have been other clubs inquiring from overseas, from the Championship, other teams I've talked to. But I'm actually quite happy that it worked out in the end. Because when I first heard of QPR, especially because of Mick, that was something that definitely intrigued me, because I had the privilege of working with him before. And I know how he would like to play, what his philosophy is, and just what he gives you just in terms of man management, which I think is incredible. He does an incredible job on that. And I mean, I can be open. Yeah, I have spoken to Wigan, which was probably something that went into more of an advanced stage. Anything else was like clubs that showed interest, but it was like, you know how it goes in transfer market. So Wigan would have been one that could have gone to something eventually, but yeah, QPR really went for me in the end. And I'm really, really happy to be here, apart from always wanting to live in London because I have family down here and loads of friends. Just the project is very, very interesting for me.
Have you been surprised with the level of depth at centre back? We were talking earlier, and it feels like we've got a real strong 4 centre backs now. Have you sensed that since you've come in?
Yes, I mean, I knew it before. Because ever since I knew that QPR is having at least an eye on me or looking at me, I looked into the situation, I looked at the players, and then thinking about what the club wants to achieve on a long term, probably you need to have that. Especially if you look at the Championship, you know, you have such an intense league. It's 46 games plus a few in the cup on the cups. So that's you need to be prepared for that. So I think we're 5. If you think that sometimes we did play a back 3 in the last few games, not to start with, but we changed to a back 3. If you start with a back 3, actually one of these games, then 5 seems not as much anymore. So it's good for depth, but also just to keep the intensity and the competition high, because that's what's going to keep us on our toes and to make sure that everybody's playing and performing at their limit.
Question I really want to ask is, since you've been in the club, who has impressed you the most? You know, in training, in the games, was there anyone that really stands out?
They're gonna love if I mention their names if they listen to this. Actually, I really like Chrissy Willock and Ilias Chair. They're really, really good on the ball. I said it to Chris a few weeks ago now. In training, he done an unbelievable chop. I've never even seen it coming. I managed to recover, which then, on the other hand, surprised him. He was like, "How did you even get there again?" But I was like, yeah, he's special. And I think you can see it in the game. Same goes for Ili. But there's a few. I think Tim, who's on loan from Aston Villa, I think he's got really, really great potential. I think for the first time since he played, I mean, it's still young or early on in the season, and he hasn't played a crazy amount of games for the club yet. But you can see that there's something special about him. And I think probably with the performance against Reading, he probably has set the standard for himself. You know, that should be the type of level he should be reaching in his performances. And if he can do that for us on a consistent level, I think we're going to have a lot of joy with him. Kenneth Powell, I think, is doing really well. Both of our fullbacks, actually. Who else? I had someone. There's a lot of really good players in our team. Doza is, I think, really, really good. Fieldy does a really good job. I think he's growing with each game that he's playing. Sorry, I have to fight a fly. Yeah, no, it's quite a few impressive players actually in that squad. Can't lie. Even amongst the centre halves, Jake, left footers for me are always kind of special. They always have something special about them, or seem to have something special about them. Rob Dickey is really good. I like Jimmy Dunn. He's got like a great heart, which you can see is a very honest character. I could probably go through the whole team, which tells you about the depth that we have in quality, you know. And that's why I said I think the project is really, really interesting, and there's loads of potential here.
Leon, obviously, fans love you here. You've come in and done an amazing job. And I don't know if you heard the other day, Ali McCoy said that he was surprised that Rangers let you go. And every time I put a tweet out and talk about how great you are, I get about 1,000 Rangers fans saying the exact same as him. Obviously, they were really surprised that you didn't stay. Were you surprised yourself?
Yeah, it was a bit of an interesting one because pretty much the whole time leading into the end of my contract, the sports director pretty much said that we're gonna like figure out a new deal. And I was told so until almost or pretty much the last day of my contract, where he then turned around and said, look, the manager does not want to keep you. So I could kind of say I was surprised because I thought I had done enough to justify to get another year. But then again, when I actually got the news that I'm definitely not going to get another deal, it hit me because it's funny, just in hindsight, if I look at the last interview I actually gave for the club as a Rangers player after the Scottish Cup final, where I was asked about my situation as well, it almost sounds like a little goodbye there, which I never thought about at that stage. But obviously, we're talking about maybe a period of 1 or 2 months where we've been in talks and what's going to happen. And yeah, we're going to figure something out. We're going to figure something out. So you're always thinking, I'm quite optimistic, and I'm thinking, there's no way that I'm not going to stay. And then when they actually did tell me, it was hard to take. I can't lie, because just as the fans are so supportive of me, I took a real liking, if not loving, in them. I said it in that interview. I love that club to bits because that probably was the best, or not probably, it was the best time of my career so far, looking at everything. So yeah, that was pretty much the Rangers situation and why I didn't stay. It was not so much a matter of me going and saying, look, I'm done here. It was a decision made by the manager in the end, and I had to accept it and move on. So now I'm still a Ranger, just down south.
Obviously, you come from Scotland to England. Is there a big difference between the gap in terms of football? You've been a defender in Scotland and compared to the English football.
I think the level in terms of the physicality, which is probably something that people point out as one of the first things, that is pretty much even. Some games actually felt that it's even rougher, but that could have also had to do with some of the decisions made by the refs. No offense, but yeah, I think just in if you look at the depth of teams in terms of their quality, and I don't mean to badmouth the Scottish League here, but I think you can see that there's a difference in the quality of the teams overall, which makes it more challenging, especially if you look at the fact that you play 46 games, and they come thick and fast. And then again, if you play for one of the big clubs up in Scotland, most of the teams just sit in, whereas in the Championship it's quite open. So yeah, it's definitely a difference you can feel so far. I don't know if that has to do with my fitness levels that I came into, but I don't think so. No, honestly, I think you have to pay respect to both leagues, and I think the Championship is a very renowned league. It's an accomplished league. It's a very well respected league, very enjoyable. But it's probably one of the toughest leagues if you look at the schedule and just everything that comes with it.
Does it compare much to German football as well? Because obviously you've played over there.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say the comparison is in terms of like German football? Would you say it's harder or just as?
My first impression, actually, when I came down to Brighton, when I came to the Premier League in 2018, and then furthermore, I just felt the depth of teams that have a really high tactical level in Germany. It was probably higher, I thought, the tactical level. Physically, there's loads of running involved. I know that some of the players that I do meet over here that have been in Germany or that have played with players from Germany, they always, oh my God, you're running so much. I do feel like the Bundesliga, for example, gets underrated a bit sometimes over here. But yeah, it's hard to say. Like, I think the level in the Bundesliga is quite high. It's demanding physically, but not on a level as the Championship, for example. And then obviously, if you compare it to the Premier League, the level of players that the Premier League has, I think there's no discussion about it that this is the best league in the world. But as I said, I think it's coming over here as well now, by the way, like that tactical element that I was missing a bit maybe 4 years ago, where I was a bit surprised, that comes in more and more and more and more. So that gap is actually closing. In the Premier League, it is closed anyway already. But even in the Championship, you can see there's not, obviously you have a lot of direct play, which is probably the main difference to Germany. Because I said it can be quite tactical without actually lacking intensity. But you don't play 46 games, you play only 34. So that's a huge difference.
Leon, I just wanted to touch back a bit on the Rangers stint. Obviously, you just said that it ranked as one of your most fondest parts of your career. I just wanted to ask, what differences have you noted between Micky Beale, the assistant manager, to Micky Beale, the gaffer or the manager?
Not too much, to be fair. Obviously, he's now the gaffer. So I think when he was an assistant, sometimes he was a bit more in the background than now, because obviously, as if you're the manager, you have to take loads of responsibility, which I'm not saying he did not at Rangers back then. But obviously, if he's assisting or assistant manager, then sometimes he's a bit more in the background, more observant. Even though he was quite hands-on there already. Like he was leading quite a few sessions back then, also tactical meetings. So that's why I'm saying it's not too much of a new thing. But obviously, I think the main difference probably will be for him just having more responsibility now. But I think the way I got to know him, or the way I know him, is that he's probably embracing it to take on, or to take all that responsibility and just make sure that he's the best version of himself. That's what he demands from his players, and I think that's probably what he's demanding from himself the most.
That's great to hear. And I mean, since you joined QPR, we're unbeaten when you've started. We've won 3 and drawn 1, kept 3 clean sheets, and they were our first clean sheets of the season. So from a personal point of view, what do you feel like you've brought to the team on and off the pitch, maybe?
That's early for me to say, because obviously I joined quite late. I can only tell what I'm trying to bring. So for me, going back to Rangers, my time at Rangers actually is something that I'm extremely grateful for, because it brought out a characteristic in me as a player that I wasn't aware of having like that. It's just that winning mentality, and just going in there, like going in to win all the time. You tell yourself that before, but if you haven't actually been in an environment like that, I don't think there's too many that actually have it. That's why you don't see a lot of elite players. I mean, obviously we all know the big names, but they're the top 1% or however much. And I think that mentality, that pressure of having to win every game is something that I really embraced. And I'm trying just to make sure the players at QPR know that they demand enough from themselves, that they're not being complacent, that they're not satisfied with where they're at now. I mentioned early on when we opened that it's not about patting each other on the back now, but it's about patting each other on the back after the season. So after every game, we need to look at the things that we can improve. Have I been the best version of myself? Am I performing at my maximum, at my highest level? If not, what can I do to get there? And get this type of mentality in that every session counts, every win in training counts, for me as a defender, every tackle counts, every block shot for the strikers, make sure I'm putting the goals away in the unopposed exercising, all these type of things. And then another thing that I always try to be, I mean, we have Albert Adoma, who's called Angs. I think I'm kind of a second uncle, but I've always liked to do that, just to talk to players. I said there's loads of young players here, and I try to give them advice, give them my experience. They don't always want to hear it, but I'm always trying to make sure that I give them some sort of wisdom, if you like to call it so, experience, pass it on to them. Sometimes maybe be a bit of the bad cop. But just because I see there's loads of players with great potential, and it would be such a shame if this would go to waste. So, yeah, that's really what I'm trying to give, like a bit more of a winning mentality, not being like demand more from yourself. You know, okay, you're a good player, you're a good 1v1 player, but how many times can you actually execute for us in the game? Like, does it just look nice, or are you effective? All these type of things, and I'll try to be some sort of positive character in and around the team, some sort of I'm not the most vocal off the pitch. On the pitch I try to do that, take some sort of leadership, and try to give the lads some sort of composure and something to lean on when there's times that are more challenging, because I think the reality of it is that I've probably experienced a bit more, at least, than most of the young lads. And it's natural then for me to take on more responsibility and make sure that, right, they worry about their jobs, and I maybe take some of their weight off their shoulders.
Obviously, you talk about experience there. You've featured for Nigeria at obviously the African Cup of Nations and in the World Cup in Russia. How do those tournaments compare, and what was this kind of step up in footballing ability at an international tournament?
For the World Cup, I can't lie. Even looking back at it now, it's still but it feels like unreal, kind of. Just having been there, if I look back at it, it's crazy. I mean, it wasn't too successful. I think we should have made it to we should have made it out of the group stage. That defeat against Argentina last minute was really painful in the World Cup.
Yeah.
But to play on that stage is unbelievable. It's just wow. And yet, or at the same time, if I think back at it, it was just 3 games of football, kind of, you know?
Yeah.
And I think these moments, sometimes you only realize a little bit later how big they actually were, what it means if you hear players, when you tell them, yeah, in the World Cup 2018, when I played against, I don't know, Croatia or whatever, and then boys go like, you played in the World Cup? And then I'm like, right, that's actually quite a big thing. It's not really trying to sound big time or anything. It's just you're so focused. You try to get a result and you try to win in advance, and then after that, yeah, you process everything. You go into your holidays and come back, and it's straight back into football again. Back at the time, I had like a 2-week break, I think, and went straight into Brighton. Had to organize my move from Germany over to Brighton. So you don't really get too much time sometimes in football. And same with the Afcon. Obviously, the passion in Africa for football is unbelievable. And to come home with a bronze medal was massive. At the same time, it was not good enough because Nigerian supporters are very, very, very demanding. So I think they take pride, but since there was a team that has won it in 2013 last, you always get compared to the players before you. But again, it's another level of experience that you just gain as a player.
Yeah.
On a different stage, in a different environment, different football environment with loads of challenges that make you stronger. Can be frustrating at times as well, but you definitely learn loads from that. And I try to take that into my game, into my day-to-day routine, pretty much. Just in my life outside of football, especially the experiences I make in Nigeria or in Africa with Nigeria.
Yeah. Obviously, we've also touched about, like, obviously, you grew up in Germany, born in Germany. What's the youth system like in Germany? Like, obviously, everyone talks about the youth system in England, like it's fast paced, like it's like everything's all gun ho. Obviously, is Germany more based on the technical ability? Is it more on the physical ability?
It's hard for me to say because I think since I came out of the youth system, there has been a lot of change. So in Berlin, where I'm from, you had Hertha BSC Berlin. They had just, I think when I played for them only for a year. Back then I was a striker and my first touch was like a shot on goal. That's why I only stayed a year. And then I got passed to the defense. But they built something amazing there, I think. And you've seen there's loads of big talents actually, or great big names that came through Hertha BSC. So you have both Boatengs, Jerome and Kevin Prince. There's Patrick Ebert, who might not be the most famous, but he had a really good career. Enes Benati. There's loads of names that came through this academy, but in general, you don't have, I think, as much academies as here in the UK. You probably have like a proper academy system. If that has changed by now in Germany, I wouldn't know. But what you do have is like the first Bundesliga clubs and the second Bundesliga clubs, they obviously try to build their academy and their, I don't know, starts them from under 5s, under 7s or something like that, all the way up to the first team. You do have that, but then you just have loads of, I think here you call it, I'm not even sure if you would say non-league, but like Sunday league kind of. You have different divisions, and that's where you play at with, like, I don't know, your local team or team that's not too far from where you stay. And then in terms of, when I was young, there was always loads of running, as I just said. The last club I played for, the pre-season and our off-season programs were also quite intense in terms of running. I think it depends on the manager, really. If you would go to a bit older generation that I still had my first steps in professional football, there was always loads of physical work involved, especially in pre-season. And I think you can always see that in general in German teams, they are always, even if they're technically not amazing, they are always willing to run hard. And the discipline is very high, which then I think shows in the tactical discipline, and the tactical ability as well. So those are, I think, two key elements of German football. But I think the technical element over the probably past 10, 15 years or even longer, I think there's more weight on that by now, which you then can see again in young players that came through over the past years, like Kai Havertz, for example. He's a great example. You have another guy called Wirtz at Leverkusen, where Havertz came from. There's loads of German talent, I think. And it was like the likes of Özil, I think, and his generation that kind of opened the door and probably made the German football system overthink a few things.
So we got some quick fire questions. Starting off with, so what is your favourite ground that you've played in and why?
Ibrox. Because you have to be there to understand it. I'm pretty sure last night Liverpool would have been impressed how the place was rocking. Have you watched the game last night? So I watched it on TV, and after they scored the goal, you could literally just see the camera went like this the whole time for like, I don't know, 2-3 minutes after they had scored the goal, And that's just, I'm not sure if the cameramen were prepared for this. insane last season when we played against Leipzig and got through to the final actually of the Europa League. There were videos, I think, on BT from their cameraman. It was just shaking, and that it's just, I can't put it in words. It's just unbelievable. That Ibrox raw is so raw and so pure. It's just wow. I've never had anything like that. Until I played there. For me, it was probably Dortmund with the yellow wall and everything, because their atmosphere is crazy. But having played so many games sold out at Ibrox, that atmosphere, especially on a European night, for me, that's just all the way up from what I've experienced. That even tops the World Cup.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, what about your worst ground? What's one ground you didn't like playing at?
Let me think. Probably up in Scotland as well. Dundee United, probably. No, not Dundee United. Dundee FC. That was horrible. That was horrible. Definitely. I don't know if that even was grass. But no, I'm sorry, Dundee United. I need to go back, and I say at this point, sorry, Aussie, my teammate, my brother, but what you or your federation made us play on against you guys, I think 2-3 years ago, that was an absolute disgrace. I'm sure you've all played football, right? So
Yeah.
have you ever played on a frozen pitch? So
Close
you know
to.
when you literally like the grass now is just hard. It's literally like. Problem is, you don't have that season, that time of the year in Africa, in Sierra Leone. It was hot. It was like 35 degrees. That pitch was so dry. All around it, the stadium looked like a, what is it? Is it like a, you call it ruin? Like it's just like a ancient type of, I don't know, like a Colosseum pretty much.
Like a ruin.
A ruin.
Yeah.
That's ruin. Sorry. So it was like a ruin all around, and the pitch was like a frozen pitch because it was so dry. Literally, you stepped on there the day before the match, and I was like, if I were to make a last-ditch slide tackle here, I would just have to let the striker score, because ain't no way I'm gonna do that. It's impossible. You're gonna get hurt badly. Not just that that your leg's gonna be open, you might even like not break a bone but bruise it badly. It's terrible. So if Ozzy comes on here, ask him about it, he will probably agree.
What about obviously talk about strikers? Who's the toughest opponent you've come up against?
I've been asked this question a lot over my career, and I probably wouldn't go for a striker. I would go for a winger, because I also had a spell where I played right fullback, and I would say Ribéry. To be fair, we lost the games where I played directly against him, but I think I always done well over the 490, even though I was absolutely blowing. But Ribéry was just, wow, so strong, so skillful and energetic, and he comes at you over and over and over again. He was really challenging for me as a right fullback. As a centre half, in terms of striker, who made it, and again, not trying to sound big time, but I just happened to have good games against them then, I guess. Aguero, when we played against him in a friendly, because he just always plays on the offside line, which makes it really tough. Lacazette was someone who also was very intelligent in that sense. And then I loved to play again. I loved it. Every game I had against Lewandowski, because it was always great battles, great challenges, because he can be a bit dirty if he gets frustrated. So, and who else? Probably, yeah. Aubameyang was also always a good challenge, but yeah, there's been some not so bad strikers in there.
Yeah, not bad at all. What about the players you've played with? Best players you played with?
Claudio Pizarro was unreal at Werder Bremen back then. Yves Bissouma is one who's at Tottenham now. Really, really enjoyed to play with him. I always feel when I watch him in the Premier League that people don't even see everything that he's got to offer. He's so special. It's like Wow. Let me think about a few defenders or midfielders here. I think that Pizarro probably is the one that always comes to my mind first, because back then he was probably 33, 34. So my age now, and he was just so good still. Like cheeky in a way as a striker. And he would just, I don't know, it's just, can't leave out Jermaine Defoe. Yeah, just based on, I mean, it was in his last few years when I played with him, but his quality, it would always still come through, you know. He scored one unbelievable goal last season against, I don't know if it was Motherwell at home maybe. Tavernier played a cross from around the halfway line, and the ball comes down, and just as the ball hits the floor, he just slides it in on the floor. That goal was so beautiful. Yeah, but these questions are always tough because I feel like I need some time to think, because there's probably a Pizarro, Defoe, Bissouma, something, someone who came to my mind straight. Per Mertesacker, very long, very tall, looks really stiff, but so intelligent. Such a good defender. I think he didn't make the career didn't have the career he had for no reason.
Yeah.
Obviously, Mertesacker, one of the best centre backs from kind of that era.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm curious to know who your idols were growing up. Obviously, because Mertesacker's a centre back as well. Was he someone that you looked up to, or was there one in particular?
Absolutely not. I didn't. Can't lie. I always liked PK. But before that, probably Nesta and Maldini were like defenders that stood out to me. Baresi, another Italian, really good. But the players I actually look up to as idols, were strikers. Interestingly enough. So my all-time favorite player is Thierry Henry. He, for me, is just, I'm not saying he's the best player of all time or anything, but for me, he's just my favorite. The way he combined style and determination, you know, this bit of arrogance he always had, it was, and the elegance. King Titi is unbelievable. And Ronaldinho. Wow.
Yeah.
What a player.
Yeah, it's a special player. Obviously, got two quick ones. Well, my first one, would you rather keep a clean sheet or score the winner? Obviously, you're a former striker, so I suppose it's a bit of a weird question for you.
Clean sheet and winning the game? Yeah, I'll take the clean sheet then.
Yeah. What about scoring the winner? If it was clean sheet or score the winner?
Well, if we still have a clean sheet and I score the winner, like I had the 1-0 or whatever, that's fine. Then I have both. So
And
you can't have everything in life, so I'll go for the clean sheet as a defender. That's also something I took from Rangers from especially that first season there. It's just something that was instilled, just being hungry and like obsessed with clean sheets.
Final one from me. If you're the gaffer, who's your current QPR five-a-side team?
Oh,
You sticking yourself in there?
have to.
Yeah.
Including a goalie,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then that's Senny. Myself, I put in there Tyler, Illy and Chrissy, and and Jake Clark Salter.
Solid.
Good team, that.
One quick question to end on, and it's just something that I've been thinking while I've been listening to you. With Micky Beale, what type of manager is he? A sort of halftime? Is he a ranter, or is he calm, collected? I mean, I know it's early days and we've done pretty well at the moment, but you know, what is he like when things aren't going right, I guess is the question.
That's one thing that always stood out to me at Rangers already, because we did have times, which is funny because we were in a good place. We had like that invincible season, but we would still have moments where we were just maybe in the Europa League or in a game where we did not play as convincing or as dominant as we wanted to be, and there were some warning signs. So we would still have moments where the gaffer, as in Steven Gerrard and Gary McAllister, we would all get a bit heated, a bit emotional. And Mick actually was always the one who kept everybody at bay. He was like, listen, boys, or everybody, there's no need to lose our head here. We're in a great place. So yes, it feels like we've messed up, blah, blah, blah. But listen, we're still unbeaten. We are still, 6 points clear. Everybody just needs to calm down for a second and then look that that we're still in a great place. And I think he always done an amazing job at that. I think he's not a renter, definitely not, but he knows when he has to go into people. I think he said that after the Sheffield United match, that at halftime he had a bit of a go at everyone. But this is not the norm for him. I don't think he's a firm believer in that. He knows that sometimes it might be necessary, and then he's not shy to do so, but he's always very, very level-headed and clear with his thoughts, even if things get a bit like sticky and hectic, you can always tell that he's trying to stay level-headed and come up with a solution rather than just getting all emotional and maybe irrational even. That's not him.
Leon, we'll let you go, mate. We'll let you get back to putting your TV up. Thanks for joining us, mate, and good luck for the rest of the season. And keep up the good work, mate.
Thank you.
Great start.
Yeah, cheers for coming on, man. Thank you.
Cheers, Leon.
Cheers, mate. Cheers, Leon. Leon's gone. Top lad. He's I know we've spoke about him on the last pod, but he looks a man mountain, doesn't he? He looks like a big difference to us in what we were missing last season at times at centre back. Someone just that commanding experience, just level headed. And it's going to be really interesting when everyone's fit who gets the nod. Even three at the back, I couldn't tell you who would get the nod. Don't know what you think, Jack.
Yeah, no, I think he's made a big difference when he played. Like once he's kind of getting up to speed. He looks just like, isn't it the cliche, isn't it, like a Rolls Royce? He just looks really good for this level and very assured. There was a bit that sticks out for me with him. It was the win at Sheffield United, and after we scored, and it's that great footage of the celebration. He is just there geeing everyone up, and I think he was probably too modest to admit it, but I feel like he's a big presence in the dressing room already.
Yeah, and like I said, it would be interesting to see. He could play right back. Beale said today he might even play him right back in his pre-match interview. So be interesting because Laird is still carrying a bit of a knock. He's just coming back. He might not risk him, so he was saying he could play Leon there. So that and he mentioned that in the interview, didn't he? That he played there against Rubery probably a few years ago. But yeah, we'll see that. Reading then. What a win, lads, eh, Ollie?
Yeah, I thought we came out and we looked superb very quickly, and then just seemed to dip a little bit. I thought, I'll say it now, I thought that was arguably one of the worst refereeing decisions that I have seen at this club in a very long time. How on earth that wasn't a penalty is just beyond me.
I don't think he saw it, mate. I don't think it was. In fact, I think if he saw it, he would have given it. But I think that if you see it in slow, but the player lot of runs in the way, but then
guess which player it was? Jeff Hendricks in the way.
Yeah, and the lino as well. What's the lino playing at?
Yeah, I think the lino couldn't see it either. I know. Yeah, I agree. It was definitely a penalty, but
I think it just showed that he talked about earlier on the mentality. Leon, he's saying about the mentality. I think we've shown that so much this season. To go behind to a questionable penalty, when we should have had a penalty, it's going to put the lads on tilt mode. And I think we deserved it in the end. I thought we played really well. I thought Dykesy had a great game. About time. I just think it was a really good win. It showed that once again we've got the mentality, and I just can't see us losing to Luton now, I think the more we play, the more this team wins, the more I love watching them. And it's not just the football, it's the mentality, it's the look on the players' faces, it's the characters. It's just I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
What do you reckon, mate?
No, I agree with everything there that Ollie's saying. I just like we need to give a special mention, obviously, to Ozzy and to Lyndon. Like they're players who sometimes get the bit of a brunt of the stick from the fan base. We've obviously criticised them both previously, but what a ball in from Ozzy! And for a striker who hasn't scored in however many games, that diving header was like fantastic. And then the confidence to just slam the penalty home as well. Like I think, like Ollie's saying, like we are showing signs that we have this real tough mentality, and we're gonna like take a knockback, but it's not gonna affect us. I can't see us getting turned over anytime soon, like and losing 4 or 5-0. I don't think the players
Don't say
got
that,
it in
mate.
them. Yeah, I know, but I don't think Mick Beale would let it happen. I think he's getting the players drilled to work as a unit. Like you see him at the end, like the video of like Ilya's chair, like hitting the ground and like just absolutely exhausted from like at the final whistle. Like that's coming across from all the players.
There's a few stats that like stood out from that win. Obviously, the first time we won 3 games in a week since 2018 in October under Steve McLaren with his team of men. It was the first time we came back to win a game since Kenilworth Road, Luton, earlier this year. So that kind of links nicely into the upcoming game. Obviously, Dykes, first player to score twice on his birthday. It's Carl Connolly versus Northampton in February 2002.
Connolly.
So
He was decent, Carl Connolly.
Yeah, I know. He was winger, wasn't he?
Yeah.
In a bit. Obviously, what Ollie touched on, great to see Dykes sort of back to his best. Loves playing against Reading. Scored more QPR goals against Reading than any other team so far, 5 goals. And obviously, Mick Beale, just a bit on him, really. We've only lost 3 of his first 14 games, which is the lowest by a manager in his first 14 games since Jim Magilton, who also lost 3 games. But if that was ever an indicator to not get carried away just yet, Magilton lasted 9 more games after that. So I don't see that happening with Bill, to be honest. But I think, everyone, let's keep our feet on the ground, even though it is really exciting. And, team spirit is great.
I've got an agenda here, right? And on it, I've got I put capital letters, feet on the ground, mate. How weird is that? But my example was just because there's so much has happened, like Jim Magilton, we had McLaren. Do you remember when we thought that we were going to take over the world with McLaren? Warburton last season. I remember a stage with Paolo Di Canio. I remember we had like a good Luigi Di Canio. We were one. I think we were unbeaten for like the first 2 or 3 months of the season. I thought we were going to, that didn't turn out well. So, but I can't speak highly enough of Mick Beale. I really can't. I was thinking about it earlier. I'm thinking the way he talks, communicates to the fans. It feels like he gets it. And pre and post match interviews are always really interesting. And he gives, he kind of says what we're all thinking, which is nice rather than just saying, we tried our hardest, we did our best. It just didn't fall for us. That kind of stuff that, managers sometimes say. And we've had no money. We haven't spent any money, which is mad. Did you think about it? He was missing his best player for the first few games of the season. There's so many things that have gone against him. His best, some of his players he's bought. I think we started the season with more than half of them injured of the players we bought.
Yeah, the dance tied behind his back a bit, didn't he? Like those first few weeks, and he threw all. That Middlesbrough was a gamble, that win, but I think it was great management in the end, in my opinion, because it took the pressure off him, because a manager of no previous experience at as the number one, not winning his first 5 or 6 games, it gets a bit tense. So I thought that was a good move, and that was a good sign early days. But he has got a headache this week with this subs bench, because he's got Sinclair Armstrong back, he's got Taylor Richards back, he's got Amos buzzing around, Tim's looking good. How'd you pick a bench? Like
all centre backs. You've got KK's just come on. I mean, if he does decide to go with Ethan Laird, then what does he do if Leon can play there? And Albert miss out, but he likes playing 2 defenders, 2 midfielders, 2 attackers on the bench, doesn't he? So you're right. It's difficult for him, isn't it?
I think I just want to touch on the sub situation. I think this is where he doesn't get as much credit as he deserves, Mick, because I think his last 2 or 3 games, about 70 minutes in, he's made it, not even 70, sometimes 60. he's brought on maybe 2 or 3 subs, and you're thinking, against Reading, bringing on 2 defensive players, you're thinking, we go for a draw here, and we've gone on a 1. That's 2 or 3 times he's done that this season. He's made complete formation change, switched it up, and we've gone on a 1. That's
Sheffield United as well, wasn't it? I
Yeah.
thought the same for both. I thought, oh God.
yeah,
But I mean, these are decisions that make or break you, don't they? And a lot of the time, Warburton got it wrong, didn't he? I always, a lot of the time, especially towards the end.
Yeah, it's a great point. Where he took Field off against Reading,
yeah,
but then moving Tim into his more, I think, apparently more natural position as the base. It was a masterstroke. He won us the game, won us the penalty, didn't he?
Yeah.
As you say, Ollie, great. He's making some really smart in-game decisions, and I think that was, as much as Warburton has laid the foundation for where we are now, did a good job. That was I remember a criticism of his tenure, his in-game subs.
It feels like he's a number 2, but he's as much as a number. He's had as much experience as a number 2 as you could probably get. I.e., that it feels like he was already the manager at Rangers and Aston Villa, but he wasn't just by name. That he wasn't. If you speak to fans, and even Gerrard himself has said that he's losing someone there. Who was it? Was it the goalie Martinez at Villa said they've lost their manager, and they hadn't. He was, but I think that's how he was thought of within the players. Dunk, what do you think, mate?
Yeah, I think obviously they've said, haven't they? Like you said, the Martinez interview said that. And I think if you look at like the contrasting seasons, we're flying, Villa are struggling. So it shows you like how much of an impact Micky Beale had for them and is having for us. And I feel like he's stepping up as a manager. I feel like obviously Leon said, like his man management is there. He's getting better at it. Obviously, the more he does it, he's had to change his role slightly. And he's getting his in-game decisions right at the minute. Everything seems to be falling into place. I just hope that no other clubs are watching him at the minute to see how well we're actually doing.
The worry, isn't it? I thought it earlier. Rangers losing 7-1 yesterday. If you read their comments underneath the 7-1, there's a big picture of Micky Beale saying go and get him at all costs and about 1,000 likes. So the fans obviously want him. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge. We've got to hope that he feels he started something here that hopefully he'll want to stay. Big Tim, Dunk, my man, I told you there's something in him, mate.
No, I've not disagreed that there's not a player there. I'm not getting carried away as much as half the fan base is that he was suddenly become like this prime freaking Zidane in our central midfield there. Like he had a good game, but at the same time, he was rash for the penalty that he gave away. And there was a few like immature moments, conceding the free kick late on that could have been costly. And I just feel like there's bits to his game he still needs to improve. I'm not getting carried away on the hype train just yet. That's all I'm saying. But he had a very good game.
I'm on the train. I'm driving the train. Lads, anyone else on it, or are you still at the platform?
I put a tweet out making out like he was the next Yaya Toure, next Zidane. But that's because I thought, take away that penalty, I thought he was exceptional against Reading. I thought I will go as far as saying that I did actually say several times that I thought he was quite lazy. And I don't think I was wrong. But he stepped up in that game, and I thought he really showed his quality. He showed what he's about. We have to remember he's a young lad. Was 19? He's a young lad, and he's doing that. He won us that game in the end, really, didn't he? Because he won that penalty. He's the one that drove forward and got into space and got the penalty. So I think it's a great performance, and I just hope it wasn't a one-off and it is going to continue. Because if it does, why not? Why can't we keep going forward?
Well, I think I'm in between you guys. I'm not quite on the train yet, but I am printing my tickets out of the machine just before I go on the stage. But I think there is a really good player there with limitless, potential. I think he's very raw. I think he's still acclimatizing to the speed of the Championship. I think Millwall away at times he got caught out a few bit, here and there. And as Duncan said, it was maybe a bit rash for the penalty at Reading, but I think he was played a poor ball into him. Yeah. And I think it was put under pressure unnecessarily from the pass. But no, I think we're lucky to have him. It's a shame he's not ours. Obviously, you don't want him to block the pathway of any of our players for a too long a period, but I think he's a fantastic asset to the squad. And yeah, he looks a Premier League player in waiting.
Quickly, I just want to touch on the the 3 p.m. blackout games that is apparently going and being sold, and we'll be able to stream the 3 o'clock Saturday games. What are people's views on that? I can sort of see pros and cons. I quite like, if I can't go to a game, to be able to watch it on a 3 o'clock. I'm forever messaging Ollie to try and find me a stream or something to watch it. So that kind of, but I get the element that maybe those people that are borderline going or not going will decide not to go because they could just watch it. Especially a club like QPR where fans come from all over the country. Really, don't they? Not, that the fan base is widespread, isn't it? It's not like we're all in one town or city, all going, and it's 10 minutes down the road. So I get that element as well. Doug, what do you think, mate?
I think you kind of hit like the nail on the head there. Like it is difficult because we obviously don't live quite like in West London. We have to travel to the game a bit, and I can't always get to every game. So if I can watch it at home because I can't get to a game, I'm more than happy to watch it. I don't necessarily think it's going to affect attendances that badly if it does happen, because I feel like fans will still go anyway, because you can't beat live football. Like there's so many like games that have been on Sky I've still gone to. I could have sat at home and watched it, but I've gone to the game because I get that buzz. You don't get the same buzz when you're watching it at home, and I think fans will still go for that reason.
I think the club, it depends on how much we get in income, isn't it, from the broadcaster, which sends in Netflix, Amazon, whoever they'll sell the rights to. Because if you're getting if you're getting a big chunk of money, but I guess everybody's getting that chunk of money, so you're not getting an advantage. I guess if you're going to use it to a benefit, i.e., make ticket prices cheaper, then I can sort of see that. But I don't know. I'm sort of on the fence with it, really.
I don't think it will discourage going to the games. I think it could potentially be quite a good idea for those that can't necessarily afford to go to games, because if you want to go to the away game, it is expensive. You get on a train is expensive. I think it could be good for that. If you in a situation where you couldn't afford the subscription, you're buzzing because there's going to be more free streams available now, illegal ones, but it don't matter to me. It doesn't make a difference to me. If I go to a game, I'm not going because it's not on TV. I'm going because I want to experience the football. There's no feeling like it. Watching it on Sky in a pub won't make a difference to me. I just want to get to the game. I think it's positive, but again, there are negatives to it as well, and it'll probably be West Brom on there all the time anyway. So,
I guess it's the modern world a little bit, isn't it, as well? Sort of things change. Just quickly, I saw the club are doing a Legends, where they're looking to find out that you've got to pick your top 5 legends of the club, and they're looking to is it is it the training ground, or is it the naming bits and bobs of the stadium? Is that right, Jack?
I think to do the Loftus Road end. I think including Stan Bowles, you've got to name in order 5 players, that you consider legends of the club, and I think there's going to be some form of tribute in the stands.
Who'd you go for, Jack?
Oh, well, if I remember rightly, I tried to go for mostly people that I've either seen or seen a lot of footage of, and I mean Alan McDonald was my number 1.
Yeah.
I think I put Jerry Francis number 2, just for the England captain as a player, but then also the management stints, the Premier League era. I think I put Mike Keane, the captain from the 60s. So holds the record for most consecutive appearances, which I always think is a great stat. It was like in the hundreds. It was crazy. And I put Kevin Gallen, as he was one of my heroes growing up. And I put Rodney Marsh, obviously cup final goals and, just unbelievable goal scoring record. Part of me is like, what about the all-time top goal scorers? But they kind of predate when my heritage with the club, I guess. But that's not to say they still should be honoured. And I think like managers as well, like Alex Stocks, should be noted as well. So I think there's more work to do on that. So, but if it's just players, I try to keep it within ones I'm more familiar with.
What is a legend, though? I mean, how do you? It all defines on what. Because, for example, you could go back and go, I've not seen them play, but I know that they were that good, and I know they did this for the club. Or is it players that you have seen and and do you know what I mean? Like it's a bit different to make a top 5. I added Les Ferdinand and Ray Wilkins in mine, and Kevin Gallen I had, but very recent. but that's what I remember. So a lot of people have put a Delta Apt in, I'd imagine, as well, won't they? I don't know if
So I think-
anyone on here has.
I think it goes with like the recency bias, doesn't it? So fans of a generation, you have certain players who stick out in, like, especially like when you're growing up. So for like me, when I was first getting into football, Les Ferdinand was my favourite player, so I put him in. But like there's like people, fans older than us and younger than us, that didn't, like Pip said, if you haven't seen them live, if you haven't watched them, like we know about obviously Stan Bowles, Rodney Marsh, how much they did for the club as players, but it's all from like videos, YouTube videos. Do you know what I mean? Like it's hard to fully feel it. So I think that's the problem, is that with the fan base is how do you define a legend? It's how whatever you feel is a legend from your era, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a bit of connection, isn't it? As you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think the legend to a 50-year-old fan is a very different type of legend to a 15-year-old fan. For me, a Delta Apt is part of that because of what he did that season. But I think you've got to look at like Sir Clint Hill in there as well. Put everything on the line for QPR.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, I don't know.
I
I'm a bit
see him as a legend. I'm trying to go like my lifetime. I don't, as much as I think about the Jerry Francis, the players like this, Stan Bowles, I don't remember them. I don't think I wasn't alive. So I'm thinking your Clint Hills, your Richard Keoghs. Just a mixture of recent and maybe the older ones. I'd like to see some appreciation for people like, I don't know, just more recent. To me, a legend is someone that you'll talk about massively that season, and you'll be saying the same thing about him in 10 years' time. And the Delta App will be talked about in 30 years' time as one of the best players we've had. So it's a tough one.
Yeah. What about Luton then? We've got Luton early kickoff on the red button, I saw. So anyone listening or anyone, we are on telly again. What are we thinking, Jack? I think we'll see three at the back. I think three at the back could come out. I've got a feeling.
Well, Luton play three at the back, and we've done quite well when we've not matched up and we've kind of stuck to our guns a little bit. So maybe we find the holes in those systems. But with the centre backs, we've got all fit now. Maybe he might do it at some point during the game, like we've seen in recent away games. I mean, Nathan Jones, Luton manager, lost more league games against QPR than any other team in his career. So I'd love to dig that one out for Twitter again if we can get a result over him, because he's not likable, but politely.
I can't wait for him to have a meltdown if we win.
Oh yeah, don't dare celebrate a goal.
No.
Allowed,
He will, though. He will.
Yeah, and that's the hypocritical thing. I mean, away from home, no side's won more away points than us this season. Or Wigan a level with a game fewer, but like it's a fantastic start on the road for QPR. Dickey could be making his 100th appearance for QPR in this game, which is he's reached that quite quickly. 2.5 seasons or so. Just a few to watch out for on the Luton side. James Bree, he's created the most chances in the Championship this season. Sort of plays right-sided centre-half or can play right wing-back. Ex-Villa, Barnsley guy. Yeah. It's a good crosser of the ball. So there's someone to watch out for. But no, I feel like it's going to be a real blood and thunder game. But I think we've handled some of those quite well. Just look at the Reading game. So I'm hoping for a win with that one. I think we can do that.
Ollie, what are you thinking? What are you going for prediction-wise?
Luton scare me. I know we do really well against them normally, but it just screams, classic QPR to go and on this great run, then lose to the one team we normally beat. But Luton, in terms of home form, are 20th in the league. They've got 7 points from.
Look at Ollie, he's done his own work. Look.
Concerning. But for me, that's concerning because I'm like, they're going to win now. But no, I think we can win it. I think we need to go out heavy straight away because Luton, they're a side that will try and come at us straight away, quickly. I think we need to combat that. And I think however we play, we just need to go straight for it from the off. despise Nathan Jones. So I honestly hope there are pools of tears of his at the end of the game. I'm going 2-0 QPR.
What about you, mate?
Well, after the lovely stats from Ollie and Jack there, that Luton are what 20th in home form and we're joint first on away form. That just now makes me like fear with dread that we're just going to absolutely blow this. And I don't know. I think it's going to be a tight game. It's going to be cagey. I think it's going to be a bit like the Reading game. Possibly a bit like the Bristol City game. Could be a game of two halves. I feel like we're gonna. haven't seen us consistently for a 90-minute game yet under Beale. I don't feel we've dominated a game. I feel we've dominated halves or percentages of games, but not a complete game. So if we can do that and we can come out the traps like quickly, I feel we could get the win. I'm going to go for a little 2-1. I feel like it's going to be tight again, but I feel we're going to get the win 2-1.
I'm going to go 1-0. I don't know why. I'll take 1-0 as well. 2-0. But after tomorrow, we've got like 5 out of 7 at home.
Yeah.
So like if we get through tomorrow, get through Saturday with a good result, I'll take a draw. And then you going into Wigan and Cardiff, winnable games at home. I'm still in a really good position. But all right, lads. Well, I'll let you get on. Thanks for coming on.
Cheers,
And
guys.
yeah, let's hope we can get a good result Saturday.
Yeah.
You are.
You are.